So today we are going to discuss and explore more how creativity work, even how to establish a creative mind foundation. Jason, could you please introduce yourself and what do you do for business?
Yeah, how you doing? My name is Jason Paul. I'm an actor, author. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've had this vision to create these books ever since I was a kid. My first book I wrote, I was in third grade, um, and I'm happy to be a part of this journey, man. So I appreciate you taking the time to allow me to be a part of your world.
It's a great pleasure. Okay, so my first question is, what are your reasons to establish the Creative Mind Foundation?
So it's funny. So when I started Jason Paul LLC, the idea was that I was going to wait through my fifth and final book. And I started this because it took me so long to get to the point of, hey, man, how do I really do this? How do I do it right? And how do I weed out all the sharks? And so I knew at that point that I wanted to be able to help other people and be part of their journey. So what happened? I had a friend, Courtney, who reached out to me. She's a fellow actress. We've known each other over the last year and a half. And she's actually a teacher too. So she reached out to me and said, hey, would you read to our students? And we're doing this virtual thing. I said, hey, man, absolutely. Which is really cool about Zoom is right now you're over in a whole nother country. I'm over here in the States. It's still dark out, man. The sun hasn't even come up yet. So long story short, so I get on there and next thing you know, I'm reading to all of Anderson County. It's up in Knoxville, Tennessee area. And so we said, hey man, if we're gonna do this, let's just make it educational too. Let's get them going. Let's get them started. Let's have them write their own stories and we'll pick a winner and I'll have some lunch with them. Well, that was on a Tuesday. So it started on a Monday. On that Tuesday, long story short, we start reading. And this girl, I hear this story, and I'm just so drawn to this little girl's story. And I can't let it go, man. So Tuesday night, I go home, I start staring at the wall. And I'm sitting in my bedroom. I'm like, man, what am I going to do with this story? Like, I can't let go of it. Like, I'm so drawn to it. And I'm a firm believer that spiritually, man, things happen for reasons.
Yeah.
Won't get into that because I'm not a preachy guy, but I'm a firm believer things happen for a reason. Um, So it's Wednesday and I call Courtney back on the phone. It's like 5:30 in the morning. I get up, go in the gym. She answers. I'm like, it might be late. I don't know exactly what time it was. I said, I have this idea and I think I can make this work. I wasn't planning on doing it for another 5 years, but the timing is right. So I make a phone call to a friend on Messenger. I voice text. If you always I voice text all the time. It's just a fun thing to do. It makes it more personal instead of texting. There's no in betweens. So I voice text my friend up in Toronto, and him and I've been wanting to work together for a long time. And I said, hey man, I got this idea. I'll pay you. We'll figure this out. And Lou up in Toronto said, hey, man, I don't want your money. Let's put it to our education. And that was kind of where I was at. So then I call an entertainment lawyer, me up in New York City. I said, me, I got this idea. What do you think? She's like, I'm in. Within 8 minutes, the Creative Mind Foundation was set up. So the idea is we're going to publish her book, all the proceeds and sales go into a trust for her. And in that trust, when she's 18, the college has to build a trust and we pay for her education that way. So that's how this thing came up. And then I was like, well, what if I don't get the right girl? Because then I started overthinking it. I'm like, oh man. So I said this. So you can't say to a little person, hey man, if something really bad happens to you in your lifetime, where do you want your money to go? So I said, hey, if I had all the money in the world and I could give you all the money in the world and money's not an option, what are you going to do with it? And her answer back to me is, I'm going to buy toys for all the boys and girls in the world who don't have it. So therefore we know now sometime down the way, Toys for Tots or something, that's where the profits will go. Something happens to anybody along this journey. But I knew at that moment. And then I built a great relationship with her mom and her dad. We're actually going to have lunch in 2 weeks. We're going to go in person over here. We're starting to open up a little bit. And I named it after my daughter. My daughter has been such an inspiration to me growing up. And so it's the Ida Marie Foundation for the Creative Mind. And with that, every year now, we will go through and we will find a children's story in a competition. We're going to take it to a global stage. It's going to go worldwide next year once we put it out there. And we're going to pick someone's book and we're going to publish it and we're going to put money in. And it's only for education. You can't get it for anything else. There's no ands or buts about it. It's set up for education and education only, done. And that's how it's going to work.
That is more than awesome. So my other question here, like, how do you educate creativity? What do you do on the courses? What do you teach them?
So it's not really teaching. I mentor you. So I come in. So my team comes in. So I have an illustrator, of an entertainment lawyer, and I'll mentor you from a creative stuff. So we've already started. I've had 3 meetings with her via Zoom, and we go through her book. And the first thing is your vision. What's your vision, right? So we have the beginning, middle, and end. So at that point in time, what are we going to do with it? And I always tell these little kids, man, like when I go in and improv with them when we're live before COVID happened and cancel the book tour. I love being live, man. The energy is just so amazing. But the idea is what are you going to do with it and how are we going to do it? And we came up with a new concept yesterday, and I don't want to talk about what we're going to do. But it's just brainstorming. Brainstorming is huge. It's your investigative work. It's the relationship building process. It's how do you want to be known? If you go through my whole entire page, in all honesty, if you go back 5 years, you go back 8 years, I'm the same person, man, except I got wiser. I let my natural self come out. I'm not worried about what I look like anymore because I know who I am when I go to sleep at night. I know I'm part of somebody else's journeys. I know that it's about being part. You have to be present in someone else's journey, man, or your journey's never going to happen. It's that simple, and you have to follow. You can't just always be lead. I'm a natural leader, but there's times you got to sit back and listen to somebody else and say, hey, okay, you know what? Let's try it that way for a minute.
Yeah, that is more than wise. So my other
Yeah.
question here, how do you decide when an idea is creative and which idea is not?
You know what's great about this, right? So it's a great question. So it depends on whose project I'm working on. From an acting standpoint, if it's not my project and they give me the freedom to be creative with bringing a character to life, it's awesome. But then you also have to listen to other people. Even in my own LLC, I listen to people all the time because it's not always you. Your way can't be only your way. It can't just be yours, and everyone else just stop talking because that's not right, man. There's so many cool ways and so many creative people out there. And like I said, it starts with the relationship building process. It starts with the connection. It starts with conversation like we're having. I'm pretty sure this might not be the last conversation you and I have now, to be honest with you. And I'm that guy. I'm that guy that I want to know about your culture. I want to know about your family. I want to know what you eat. I want to know what motivates you. I want to know why we're up. Why am I up at 5:30 and what is it, 2:30 in the afternoon over there? Is that where time it is in Egypt? Right. So I want to know what, like what makes you tick? Like, and that's what I do. That's it's a gift and a curse because sometimes it's emotionally draining for me. And sometimes I can't stop working, which, is a blessing and a curse in the same disguise.
Yeah.
But I know once you ride this wave of positivity and you're trying to really inflect good and bring light in darkness, it's just you got to go, man. It's just time.
Okay, speaking about like getting the light and getting things going, let's go to your book, the award-winning book, Lightning Bug Lights. Could you tell us, like, take us on a journey? What happened? How did you write the book? What happened? How did
Yeah.
you get the award?
Yeah, so this journey started for me 2009, but the journey of the book started when I was a child. We used to come in from this area of Mount Morris, New York, which is outside Rochester, and we go home to the Allegheny Mountains where my grandparents lived. Straight off the boat, man, hardworking Italian, Czechoslovakian background, and my cousins from Buffalo, New York, and my family would all get together at my grandparents' house in the summertime. And the best thing we do, man, I don't know if you were a kid, man, you ever played games outside and just ate dirt and grass, but I don't think these kids do that today. We would play red light, green light. We would play red rover, would you please come over? Only if you have the color blue on, and then you have to run and you chase each other, and then you play kickball. And then we'd have some s'mores. But before that would happen, before the whole campfire thing outside, my grandpa would have this wagon, this old, like, I think it was yellow and green, this old John Deere wagon. He put us in this raggedy blue thing that would pull it behind, like a wagon behind it. And you click in and we climb in there and we go in this field. And it's always happened at the end of June. And we would just sit there and these lightning bugs, man, I was so amazed. I've always been fascinated with the stars too. But when I would just see this, I'm like, this is the closest thing to a star I'm ever going to get. And it was just this feeling of calm, this feeling of being, this feeling of light, this feeling of, I'm like, man, this is magical. So long story short, we'll fast forward now to 2009. I started writing these creatively in 2009. I didn't even have a child yet. And the idea was if I had a girl, I was going to name her Ida. If I had a boy, his name was going to be Aisha. Not really sure why. I just want to go with that. Long story short, so this book is ready to roll and I can't find a way to get it out. I don't know how to do it. So it took me, and then by accident at a film festival, I find this guy's artwork. He's from Belgium. Him and I link up, and 19 months later, this book is, if you look, the artwork is second to none. And the dude's super talented. I was a chef at the time. He's an accountant. We both no longer work in that profession anymore because I promised him, man, I said, I'm going to take you on a journey with me and I'm never going to forget about you. We've actually started book 2. It's titled Mr. It's about a rooster, man. He's the coolest rooster in the family right now. And it's another journey, man. So it's incredible. We have 5 books total in the series. And then ideally I was going to start helping other people get their stories off the ground and umbrella them underneath me. But that happened within 8 minutes. So that's already started.
Could you explain a little more about your second book?
So Mr. Er's about a rooster. Right now it's dark, so you know roosters don't crow or like usually until the sun comes up, right? Well, man, there's this rooster behind my house in the Allegheny Mountains. This thing nonstop, 2 a.m, 3 a.m. I don't know what is going on with this rooster. So I could never sleep when I would go home and visit. And I'm just sitting with pillows over my head. I'm like, dude, just stop. So I'm like, you know what? It'd be a cool story, man. What if you were a little kid and he didn't understand why this thing kept, you know what I mean? So it's about a journey where he walks in and this won't hush up. So he runs into his daddy's room and he's jumping on the bed saying, daddy, daddy, you know, this thing won't hush up. And the kid's about to go like, ah. And so the dad calms him down and takes him out and they go on this magical journey. And then they finally peek over the fence and he realizes, hey man, there's a rooster that lives behind me. So so the Lightning Bug Light book was more for the categories of like 4 or 5 years old, all the way to an adult. Because if you love artwork, I'm pretty sure I can capture that feeling of you going back to your child. And that's what's important about that, is to capture that emotion. This book's more for 2, 3, and 4-year-olds, maybe 5, get up in the kindergarten range. And that's what I learned on this book tour is there's a difference between, there's a huge knowledge and mental gap between a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. And there's a massive gap between 7 and 8. And I think sometimes we forget about that, of how quickly, you know, there's crucial years of 4 to 5, and then you got 5 to 6. And then something happens at 7. You finally become your own little human, right? And then 7 to 8, the knowledge growth is enormous. And 8 to 10, man, you're like 25 years old, man, asking for your keys to the car, you know? So I've learned that because we forget about that sometimes. We're so busy in our life, we forget what it's like to be a child. And you have to be childlike, man. You have to be. I'm the biggest, if you ask anyone, man, I'm the biggest 39-year-old, 40-year-old male in the world. I just like to have fun. I'm a kid, but I have adult responsibilities. I'll throw that in there.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Is writing for this age range challenging?
See, it's funny, man. I think when you follow the gifts that you're giving, nothing's challenging. The challenge for me was in 2019. I got good constructive criticism, and most people will take offense to that. Me, man, I don't know what I do great. Don't tell me. I already know what I do well. I want to know what I don't do well. So we cut to the chase. It's not like, hey, you know what? You look so good today, and then you look like this. No, just tell me what you need done. So that's how I work. I don't, because time is valuable, and all of our time is money, man. And if you waste time, you waste creative time. If you go down the structure of that, so I want to know what I don't do well. So a lady took me under her umbrella and said, hey, man, your book touches the heart. I've seen so many children's books. Would you be willing to rewrite your book, basically? And this is why. And I wrote it from a standpoint, the first edition, there's only 1,500 copies printed. There's no longer, you can't get any more. I have 120 of them now stashed away. So I'll auction them off and give them to charity as this book gains more and more in the press and as it gains more hype. So I did. It was March, April. What month was that? March. It was in March. And I got up every morning at 3 a.m. and I started tearing this book apart. And once I changed the rhythm in the first page, the whole entire book changed. So it took about 37 more days, day after day, 4 hours. I got stuck on 2 pages. I couldn't get them out. I had a really good writing mentor system around me. And, by the end of that month, Lightning Bug Light's 2nd edition was created. And the rest is history, man.
Oh, that's a great work. So let's go to the Emmy Award. Tell me what happened before the audition, what happened in the audition.
All right, so that's crazy what's going on in my life, man. I'm definitely following his journey. So long story short, within the last year, so it starts about 3 years ago, and I was on a flight. I'm going to give you the quick breakdown of why I'm not controlling my own journey anymore. I'm just happy to be part of it. 3 years ago, if I catch this connecting flight out of Buffalo, New York, to head to Texas to film with Jay Head. He was in Blindside and Hancock, if you guys had a chance to see that movie. We did a show called Homeless Henry, where I had to play a drunk and abusive father. And man, it was rough. I'm on set, I'm dry heaving, I'm throwing up on the side. Like it was brutal. I had to dig really deep to get to that level. Long story short, if I catch this flight out of here, I don't get to stop in Chicago where I randomly met some random girl. And long story short, she helped me refine who I am. And I lost myself. When I went to LA at a young age, 22, I played college basketball. I get out to LA, man, everything's great. Next thing you know, I get spit out sideways, man. Like LA, it'll take the strongest souls and it'll spit you out sideways. And next thing you know, you're looking in that mirror and be like, who am I? You know what I mean? And it's nothing against LA, man. You just got to be ready. And you got to do it for the right reason. So at a young age, I got a little early success working for the NBA. Obviously, my ego inflated and I lost myself. In 2010, I moved back to New York City, and my daughter was born, and it was humbling, man. I couldn't do what I wanted anymore. I couldn't chase the dream. I couldn't chase being creative. I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do because I had adult responsibilities. So all I did was work. I worked at a Michelin 2-star restaurant. Terrence Brennan, Pichaline, great guy. He's a little nutty, but he's nutty in a great way, man. And I still have a great relationship with him, man. We talk all the time through Instagram. So he's a talented chef, man, hands down. Without it's one of my best times, man, in a restaurant was working with the team I had around me, Jose, Maria, Diane. These guys, man, are just great people. And Chef Jonathan Mallow, man, Chef de Cuisine. Like I miss those guys. But I still have a relationship with them, which is awesome. Long story short, it's 2017-18. My apartment burns down in New York City at some point, and I go back to PA. And I was working in a restaurant in a ski country, trying to get that going. Then worked at a great restaurant again as a chef, and then I became an executive chef of a country club. At that moment in my time in my life, I said, no more restaurants. I'm done. And this is before the pandemic happened. Next thing you know, pandemic happens. I'm sitting there staring. Next thing you know, Vindication. I booked Vindication. We don't shoot in January. We don't shoot in March. We don't shoot until July. Okay. At that time in March, I start taking class with Anthony Robert Gross out in New York City. And this guy broke me. How did he break me? He made me look in a camera like I'm looking at you. And he made me say, I'm enough. I'm enough. I'm enough. Over and over. Till it was so embarrassing, man. Like I felt like I was so vulnerable. Like I've never been that vulnerable before to myself. And at that point forward, I knew I was enough. And then next thing you know, here comes Vindication. So I get on with Jared and his team and Ronnie Hummel casting. Like her and I have such a great friendship now. So when I first auditioned for Vindication season 1, it was episode 7, because each episode they have their own kind of new guy that kind of takes the story over, and they keep the supporting and the main actors, and they kind of carry through the story. And I remember, man, this is the first time with Zoom's coming out, and now you're not doing live. I had no idea what I was doing. I had a backdrop, man, that was so wrinkled, and like I'm like, I don't really care about the backdrop, and I don't know about these camera angles. I didn't care about anything. And I still have that audition. I look back, man, I'm like, what was I thinking? But a lot of people don't know about these things, man. So long story short, I didn't even know how to use Dropbox, man. I mean, dude, let's be honest. I was working in the kitchen with chef, man. I know how to do inventory. I know how to put food out. Let's be honest. At that time, that's all I cared about. So long story short, she took me, man. She was so kind and so gracious and so humbling. And she took time out and said, hey, listen, you're talented, but you have to do it this way. And you help me with this. So long story short, I get down to Texas. I'm filming. She calls me and said, hey, we got, a couple lines and under. I call them 5 lines and under. Do you want to be part of the show? I said, no. She's like, what do you mean, no? I said, no, I don't want to be. I said, I watched these pilots. This show is going to be so powerful. It's going to change the world. And I truly believe it will, and how we look at things. And she's like, I've never heard no, but that's a great answer. Next thing you know, I'm working on, she books me. I do a couple things. I rewound myself out of Boise, Idaho. I go over there and I worked on This Is War with her. I've worked on numerous projects with her. Next thing you know, now we're in this time, we're back into March, April. And George, I reach out to him and say, hey man, I saw the trailer. This trailer's powerful. I'm like, so I read one time I knew I'm reading for a preacher, man. I don't look like I could be a preacher, but then again, what's the definition of somebody who speaks the word of God? I don't know. Like just in my head, I had this set determination that that's not what I could be. Long story short, I read for him 4 or 5 times. Last time again was last Monday. I sent it over and then I get the email saying, welcome to the family, brother. And I was like, so yeah, that was a 9-month, basically. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. What are we in February? That's whatever. I lost count, but long story short, man, it was a long time to stay committed to something, and it was in a different dialect. So it was in our Armenian and Russian dialect. And the trailer's on my Facebook page, man. Dude, I get goosebumps still every time I watch it. And if you can give me goosebumps, I want to be a part of your journey, man. So there's that. So then Washington Armor comes in play. So I'm down there filming Vindication. Finally, we get on set. We're all filming. This is in July in the middle of a pandemic. We're doing our social distancing. Everyone's doing what they got to do. And then Ronnie calls me up. It's the day that I drove from New York to Texas. This is when I'm living in New York. So I drive from New York to Texas. It's about a 24-hour journey, 23. And long story short, I'm like, dude, wouldn't it be cool if I get a live audition while I'm down here, since I'm down here? Next thing you know, the last day I'm there, I'm getting all my stuff ready to go home. I get a call from Ronnie. Mind you, I was just in the pool because I'm a big kid. I'm playing with all the neighborhood kids that I didn't even know. We're just in there playing basketball, and I'm just beating up on all these little kids and just talking smack to them because it's fun. And long story short, Ronnie calls like, dude, they want to see you live. I'm like,
Hey.
okay. So I'm like, all right. I jump out of the pool. I don't even think. I just run. I have no more clothes. They're all dirty. I run to Walmart of all places. I grab a t-shirt. I'm in board shorts, and I call a guy I know who, Matthew, back home, this guy from Scotland. I said, I have a feeling they're going to ask me to read in a Scottish dialect. I said, just keep talking to me. Just talk to me Scottish. We get there. I said, Matthew, it's Scottish, man. It's Scottish. So he helps me pronounce 2 words that I might struggle with. And I go in live, and the rest is history, man. And now Washington Armor is so powerful. And it's weird, man. All these weird connections, like this all happened so fast, and it's still happening. I'm attached now to my first co-feature, and it's incredibly humbling experience, man. Because I know now mentally I can handle it. Because when I was younger, no way it was possible.
That's great. So my question here, how does creativity fit into acting?
Oh man, Oof, it's so creative. So if it's funny from a creative standpoint, if you think of food and the way you make food and you build synergies, it's creative. If you think of the way of having to take somebody else's vision, right? Because somebody else creatively put this together for a reason. So not only do you have to get in the mind of the writer, then you have to get in the mind of the characters. And it's not just your character. And see, that's where a lot of people make mistakes. It's not just your character, man. You need to know the characters that surround you, because that's going to play upon how you would maybe deliver your character. And it's script analysis, it's script breakdown, it's being somebody you're not. You're always going to bring a little bit of yourself, man. There's no ands or buts about it. Even Joaquin Phoenix, man, in The Joker, hands down, by far, I hate when people argue about this, it is by far the best performance I've ever seen in my lifetime. There's no ands, if, buts about his performance. If you haven't seen The Joker, mind blowing what this man did. Like drop down, mouth drop, mic drop, whatever you want to call it in your profession, hands down the best performance I've ever seen in my lifetime. If I can even get to 1/10 of that, man, I did something great, because I've never seen anything like it, from his physicality to his delivery to him having multiple laughs that meant something different. This dude was locked in, and dude, I just got goosebumps talking about it, because when you see somebody achieve that greatness in that moment, in that time, man, it's that's what you want, right? You want to be a cheerleader for other people, man. You have to be, because you want people to cheer for you. You got to cheer for other people, man, and that's the way life is. But it all fits into that creative realm, man. I mean, my most creative moments are in the morning. I'm a morning person. I get up at 4 a.m. Right around 1:30, 2 o'clock, my brain kind of shuts off for a minute. I know it sounds weird. And then like, it's just back up at like 3 o'clock. It's like my brain's like, dude, I need to take a break. And then boom, 3 o'clock hits, and I'm like, here we go again.
Okay. So my question is, like, you change it dramatically from being, like, let's say, a novice or a freshener in the business. Now you are more matured and more experienced. What are the major changes in your character and in your perception of business?
My biggest thing is follow his lead. It's not my journey. My next biggest perception is you have to be a part of somebody else's journey. You have to be willing to help. You have to be willing to help other people achieve where they want to be. And it doesn't mean, hey, everyone call me up and can you get me an acting role? No, I'll give you a referral. I'll ask you, hey, do you got a headshot? Do you have a resume? Do you have a demo reel? If you don't have those 3 things, you have to get those first. Rejection is huge. It's okay to get rejected. Just because I say no today doesn't mean it's no tomorrow. Learning that ability, knowing who you are when your head really hits that pillow at night is huge. I know exactly who I am. There's no answer to you. Don't ask me a question, because I'm going to give you an answer and it might frighten you. That's my answer to you. Like, I'm not afraid to shy away from my background, where I came from, my trials to my tribulations, where I've come from. I'm not afraid, dude. I was a trailer park kid growing up, man. Like, I was so poor growing up, man, and I'm not going to shy away from that. And I'm going to give back. And that's my journey. I'm going to give back. I know that you have to put the work in, and it's for the long haul, man. Everyone can. Do you want instant success, or do you want a legacy? Do you want to be legendary? Do you want to be able to influence and change other people's lives in a positive light? Then you don't need a quick fix, man. You need to change yourself. So when you have questions about that, you got to look deep into your soul, man. You say, you know what, I've done some bad things, man, to people, and I've hurt some people throughout, and I've gone through every one of them, man. I found every one of them, even to my childhood, and said, hey, man, that time I did this to you or something happened, I'm really sorry, man. I didn't mean it. You know, I was immature. I wasn't thinking. I wasn't emotionally connected to you. I was only thinking about myself. It was selfish. I'm sorry. And I've made sure I've gone through all those relationships, man. Ex-girlfriends. Maybe I said something stupid to a coach or said something stupid in a basketball game. I mean, I still talk trash in basketball when we play over at Holcomb Bridge, man. We have some great games over there. But it's not on a personal level anymore. It's not out of hate. It's not out of anger, if that makes sense. It's out of fun. So once you do those kind of things and you let go of that hate and that anger, yeah, man, it opens up. I mean, so those are my growing pains that I went through. Not being afraid to put the work in. I'll tell you right now, I might not be the most talented dude, but I'm gonna outwork you. I'm gonna outwork you, and I promise I will. And you tell me I can't do something, don't ever say that to me. Don't tell me that. I mean, let's be honest. I'm not gonna go be an astronaut and fly away, but you know what? I can go pretend to be an astronaut in a movie, right? So, like, those are the things, man. And that's why the power of the mind is a beautiful thing, Brian. It's so powerful, and I don't think we even realize as humans how powerful our mind is. If this is right and this is right, everything else goes. There's no ands if buts about it. There's no stopping it. But you have to get them in sync. You have to find that sense of calm. You have to find that sense of peace. And every night before I go to bed, I literally can be out in 3 seconds. Everyone's like, how do you fall asleep so quick? Because I know I'd live for today. Because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what happened yesterday because I don't care about yesterday. We're not talking about yesterday. We're talking about the now. We're talking about today. How could I be better than I was yesterday? And the only way I can focus on that and do that is be present in today.
So my question here for you, like, what do you recommend those people who may have the talent, but they need this extra push? They need some motivation.
Find somebody who motivates you. Because and learn how to motivate yourself, right? Let's be honest. You got to find a good mentor. You got to find somebody that you look up to. You can't be afraid to ask for help. That's what I learned. I'll be, dude, you can ask Jared, man, I'll reach out. Like, and you have to be in relationships for the right reason, right? You have to be genuine. You have to not want somebody, look at somebody as an object or look at somebody as, what can you do for me? How about look at them and what can I do for you? You know what I mean? What can I do for you? That's the kind of mentality that you should have. But then you got to ask for help, man. When you're stuck and you need something, just say, hey, man. I'm not saying, hey, everyone, start calling everyone up and say, hey, can you give me $5 million? That's ridiculous. But be honest with yourself and say, what am I lacking? What don't I have? What social skill do I need? What creative side am I lacking? Like, I'm a terrible speller, man. I'm so bad at spelling. It's painful to me. And it's because I came up in a spelling check era where the computer did everything for you. And I'm just like, dude, you can even look at some of my posts, man. There's so many things that are wrong about them, but that's who I am. And I embrace that. And that's why there's an editor. And I call out to people and say, hey, listen, you know how bad I suck at spelling? So could you please help me? You know what I mean? You can't be afraid of those things like, oh, what are they going to think of me? Great. You know what? I may be a terrible speller, but I bet I'm 9,000 times blah, blah, blah better at this than you might be. So if I'm better at this and my strength is here and your strength is here, let's just help each other. And that's the thing. And don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid, to let your hair down, man. Don't be afraid to let your hair down. Like that's the funny thing I always say, or nobody puts baby in the corner. You know what I mean? Those are all funny slogans that I love. Because don't put yourself in a corner, man. Don't do that. Don't think somebody else, because of their status or who they think they are, dude, they're not better than you. They're not. There's nobody in the world that is better than any other person. And that's the way I look at it. I'm not better than you. And listen, I don't care if you're the president of the United States. I don't care if you are. You're not better than me. You're not. You might have a status that says you might have some more important things, but on a humanistic level, if I strip you down and we strip me down, we're the same human. Let's be honest. And that's what you have to be mindful. Yeah, there's people that have more money than you. There's people, but is that everything, man? Is that everything? No. And when you find the thing that makes you tick, that's when you know you're in tune with yourself. And that's you have to be true to yourself. That's the first thing, man. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself.
It has been more than awesome talking to you, Jason, with these, let's say, brave and these inspirational comments and recommendations for other people. Thank you so much for that indeed.
Hi, man. I appreciate it, man. I look forward to building a great relationship with you and find out more about you and your culture.
My pleasure.